it's a great honor and a privilege to introduce Ursula Seligman, and then you became Lowenstein. And you were born in Germany?
I was born in Ronnenberg, Germany, which is a small village next to Hanover. That's where I went to synagogue. We didn't have a synagogue, but during the high holidays, the house I was born in is here. I was born in this house.
It's a beautiful house.
And during the high holidays, so the people from Ronnenberg didn't have to drive to Hanover for services. We had 2 rooms up here where my father got a Torah scroll, and we had services, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, every year.
Wow. And what year were you born?
1923. I was born 1923, so now I'm 97, and I'm still here in Jerusalem, a very happy lady. The reason I came, because my entire family is here. I have 1 son, 4 grandchildren, and 25 great-grandchildren, all living in Israel.
It's wonderful.
So,
and can I ask, did you come from quite a religious family? Your family, were they?
My grandparents were religious, were Orthodox. My father was raised Orthodox, but became conservative. The reason I cannot tell you, I can't ask him anymore. But, and so we belong to a very nice, in America, we joined the Orthodox, conservative congregation. Or Kodesh, and our rabbi was Rabbi Poretz. He was born in Israel, and he died and he was buried in Israel. But we always had a Jewish home. But my father, I think it's because of business. He was a meat handler. He went into the different countries in Germany to sell and buy meat and buy cattle. And we also had a slaughterhouse. In back of our house there was a slaughterhouse where my father slaughtered cattle for kosher and non-kosher. You know, when you have a cow or a calf or a lamb, the forequarter is kosher, the hindquarter. So he sold the forequarter to kosher butchers and the hindquarter to the goyim. That's how I was raised.
And did you go to a public school?
I went to a public school, and for religious school, I had to take the train to Hanover because we didn't have a Jewish school in our town. But I went twice a week on a train to Hanover to learn.
Actually, did you the friends that you mixed with? The friends, like
the
neighbors?
Friends I mixed was not Jewish, only our family. I had 3, 4 cousins, and we got together for holidays. But otherwise, I was with Christian.
But did you get on very well?
I got it all. Our little town, we did not have anti-Semitism in our town. It was only when it was Kristallnacht in November 1938, is when my father was arrested to send to Buchenwald. And I could only go to school in Ronnenberg for 8 years. After that, I couldn't enter any school. I was not admitted because I was Jewish.
Were you the only Jewish child in your class?
No, I had a cousin also. There was very few Jewish people living. Just all was family, like cousins of my father's, and one brother, but one brother and 3, 4 cousins and their children. But fortunately, most of them got out, but one couple didn't get out, a brother and a sister. We lost about 10, 12 people in the Holocaust, including my grandfather and my uncle and aunts and cousins. But
Can I ask, do you remember Kristallnacht?
I was just trying to tell you, I couldn't go to school anymore, so I learned a trade to make millinery hats. So I worked for a company, Kaunitz, in Hanover. So I worked every day. I went to work. And I was only 15 to 16 years old. They gave me the key to open up a store. I got off the train, get on the street in Hanover, and it's all glass. I went to the store, it's all glass. I went back home, and there they arrested my father to go to Buchenwald. That was the only time I knew I was Jewish, that I wasn't liked in our little town. And even the mayor, the Bürgermeister, he came when the SS and SR picked up my father. He told my father was in World War I in Germany, and he had a black cross. And the mayor came to my father's house before the SR and SS came. Take that with you, you get out of Buchenwald faster. So they were all friends of my father's. He didn't have any enemies where we lived. The Nazis were there, but they did not hurt us personally. It's just the whole story that the Jews were not liked, and we're still not liked.
And Ursula, can I just ask, after November, after Kristallnacht, what happened to your friends? Did you maintain a friendship?
They were very nice to us until we left the place. We just had to try to find a place to get out of Germany, and that wasn't so easy. Yeah. My father's cousins, one went to South America, to Montevideo, one in Uruguay, one went to Brazil, others went to England, and others went to America. But we had a little bit problem. My grandfather had a brother who was disabled, and he lived with us. And for us to get out of Germany, we had to first find a place for him to stay. So when my father came back from Buchenwald, he went to a farmer and gave him a lot of land which we owned, so he could take care of his uncle. Unfortunately, so we got him there, but we went on the ship to St. Louis. In May 1939, my parents and I were going to Cuba to stay there until we could go to America, but America had a quota system. So when we got to Havana, we weren't able to land because the government wouldn't accept our visa.
Can I just ask, just to mention, when your parents told you, how old were you? You were only about 15 at this time?
I was 15, 16. My parents didn't tell me. I experienced it. I was in Hanover with all the glass, because when I was in Ronnenberg for my home place, there was no glass.
Because there was no shul, there was no synagogue in your hometown.
But it wasn't only synagogues. They damaged all the businesses. But the mayor from our little town told the SS and SA, "Don't you dare and hurt Siegfried's house."
Wow.
And we were not affected.
But can I ask you, Ursula, after Kristallnacht, your parents realized that they have to leave?
We had to leave. My father was in Buchenwald this first day of Kristallnacht. And so we got this visa for Cuba, but in the meantime we had to, you have a home, you have a business, you can't just pick up and go. Okay. So we left. Kristallnacht was November 38, and May 39 we went on the St. Louis.
Was this the very first time you had gone on a ship?
Yes.
And was it exciting, a little bit exciting?
It was beautiful. We went first class. There was delicious food, dancing, all kinds of activities. We had no idea what we were going to see when we got to Cuba. We had our passport, everything in our hands. We were one step from Havana. Loudspeakers. No one gets off the ship. My father's cousin was at the harbor, and they had already rented an apartment for us. It was just tough luck.
They wouldn't let anybody off the ship?
There were about 3 people, I think. They had different kind of visas and they let them off. Wow. But 1 or 2 committed suicide. They just got jumped off.
And then they tried to go to Canada and to America and...
No. What happened is Germany asked, I should have had the book, I gave it to my grandchildren. There's a book of the St. Louis where the captain was ordered from German government to get back to Germany, they could kill all of us. And he was getting in touch with Hires and Joint Distribution Committee. And they finally, we stayed near Miami on the boat for about several days, and they were able to get in touch with these organizations, and they finally got in touch with England, France, Holland, and Belgium. So each one took a force, almost 250 each, and we were chosen to go to Belgium. Now people who went to England didn't have the problem we had, but the ones who went to Belgium, France, and Holland, some people were luckier, they had some kind of family and they were hidden. We were not hidden. We went into cattle cars to Gurs, Camp de Gurs. I don't know if you know where that is, in the southern part of France.
But can I just ask you, Ursula, still when you were on the ship, and I think you've got a picture of the Louis, the SS, the St. Louis. I think the
Yes, I have it.
Is this the catalogue?
Yes, this one.
This is okay. This is
the St. Louis.
That's the St. Louis. Wow.
So take this picture.
Wow. And were there any children?
And inside, and this is my father's. There's a story about it that we tried to get out of there, but.
This is your father and your mother.
No, that's my father and I.
Your father and yourself and you. Wow. The Seligman family. Wow, this is so amazing. We are making this appeal to you on behalf of your relative, Miss Ursula Seligman, because we believe that when you are aware of her pitiful circumstances, you will feel impelled to come to her assistance.
Yes, I wrote that too.
And this was in March 15, 1940. Wow. So I'm just going to read. Wow, that's amazing. And you remember being on the ship?
Of course.
You remember, and when you were not allowed to disembark in
Belgium,
when you were still in Cuba,
I remember standing there,
and you could see the port, everything, and they would not allow.
Nobody offers.
And then when you went near Miami, did you see Miami? That's
why I don't like Florida. We were for over almost a week going up and down and see Miami. I once went because I visited a cousin, but I didn't like Florida one bit. And
Ursula, can I ask, were there any demonstrations in Florida, in Miami? Let the people of the ship? Not
to my knowledge, and I don't think so. I don't think so. I really, my parents never mentioned anything like that.
It's very sad. The Canadian Prime Minister last year, he apologized.
They were not Mr. Roosevelt.
And Mr. Roosevelt never apologized and did nothing to help.
He didn't want us. He could have taken us. We all had papers for America.
Wow.
But it was just a matter of quota. You know what the quota is? You register. Now my sister, but in order to register at the American embassy, you have to have proof that somebody will take care of you when you come to America. So I had first cousins, they already were in America, and they sent what you call an affidavit to my sister because they didn't make so much money yet. They're just very young, and you have to have funds in order to support somebody. So my sister got the numbers 5,000. So a couple of months later, they decided they made enough money, and they sent one to me. I already had 6,000. My parents didn't have anyone yet. A couple of months later, an uncle of ours sent us an affidavit. The number was 10,000. So that's why my sister stayed in Germany. She took us with our car to Hamburg, to the St. Louis, and stayed with relatives in Germany. This was in May, and in November she came directly to America. So it was also good help for us. She was there, that she could also get in touch with different organizations to try to get us out of Gurs.
Wow.
It was not so easy.
So it must have been the most terrible atmosphere when the ship turned back to go back to Europe.
It was horrible. It was horrible, but I'm very fortunate. My parents are positive thinkers, were positive thinkers, and I inherited it. That's why I'm doing so well, after all I went through. You can't change it, you have to accept what's given to you. And if you make the best of it, you can survive. If you say, you don't survive.
And Ursula, I just want to ask you, it's a very difficult question, but are you upset with the Jewish community in America that didn't do more to help, to pressure the government, to demonstrate, to do more to help?
I agree with you, but you know something? Nowadays I'm upset more because anti-Semitism in America is horrible.
Yeah.
And what can we do? So at the time, we had no time to be upset. We just, again, think positive, we're going to make it somehow.
So the ship went back?
The ship went back we went to England, we went to Amsterdam, to Antwerp, and from there, somebody got an apartment for us. We got another apartment. My mother had packed a lift from Germany to Cuba and went to America. So we had our furniture. We lived a year in Belgium, but when war broke out but the Germans bombed Brussels. Our apartment was next to a railroad station, and we didn't know what had happened. I was sleeping and I was pushed out. I still hear the bombs. And then they arrested my father, but not because we were Jews, because we were enemy aliens. So my father went there, my mother and I took our papers and got on the train. We thought we go to France, and that's when we were arrested.
And where were you sent?
Pardon?
Where did they send you?
To Gurs.
And was your father there as well?
No, we had no idea. Our father was alive for over 6 months. The Red Cross came to Gurs with postcards, my father's name and different addresses from different camps. And after 6 months, we had a reply that he was alive.
And where did they send him?
To another camp in France, Les Milles, Camp de Milles.
And for 6 months, you didn't know what had happened?
We had no idea where he was or whether he was living. You can imagine when we finally, after a year and about 3 months, my father came to Marseille. We went to the embassy, we went to Lisbon, and on a first-class ship to America. My sister got us first, and to this day I don't know how we had no different clothes, how we made it. I cannot remember at all. It wasn't easy, that's for sure.
And the camp that you went to, how long did you stay in that camp in Gurs?
Pardon?
How long were you in the camp?
About a year and 3 months. From January until a year and November. About a year and a half, almost, a little less than a year and a half we were in camp. With no bed, with straw on the floor, with rats and mice, no decent food. How we survived is a miracle. And my parents and I went from Lisbon to America, and my parents were fortunately lived a wonderful retirement in America. and it's something I'm so thankful for. My father passed away when he was 90 and my mom 94. So I have good genes.
And I just want to ask you, Ursula, when you were in the camp, was it a camp not only for Jewish people? Was it a...
Now you're asking me, I don't know. We were very much for ourselves. My parents, my mother and I were very much for what we did. My mother, she liked poetry. She wrote poems in German, you know. And then we sang poems just to keep our mind occupied.
And this...
We had no access to a library or anything. It was death. Almost death.
And who was mainly in the camp?
Pardon?
Who was mainly in the camp? Who were the inmates in the camp?
It's French. Outside was the Germans and the Vichy government.
And this was in Belgium?
No, in France, Gurs.
So they took you from Belgium and they sent you to France?
My mother and I left Belgium, going to France, hoping we wouldn't...
And when you were in France...
We were arrested and sent to Gurs.
And you were sent to Gurs.
In cattle cars. That cattle car was something horrible. I don't know, there's no facility. It took about 2-3 days. They first didn't know where to get us. First they put us in a prison, and then I didn't know it was a prison, but later on I found out it was a prison. But you know, I'm here.
It's amazing, and you're so positive after what you've been through. It's incredible. It
is amazing, isn't it?
It really is. It's incredible.
But do you know why? Because I have lovely friends like Hani and many friends like her, which keep me going. Because and my family. Can you show a picture of my? Where's this album? Here's it.
And then, if we can just see the book where you came from, the town that you...
This is Ronnenberg.
This is Ronnenberg. This was your home.
That was my house.
And this is the Juden van Ronnenberg.
Yes,
and can you show us in the picture your father in the picture?
Here's my father. You see?
Your father is...
Siegfried. In the middle.
Yeah. And your mother, is she...
Yes, here. Here's this one. Alma.
And
I'm here.
Wow.
When I was young and beautiful.
It's still beautiful. And your other sister, she's...
Pardon?
Your sister, she's also...
My sister was stayed in America. It stayed in Germany until she left for America. The same.
But
she's not in. No, because she went straight. She is not in this group. These people were cousins and they never made it. But this is a fellow who made it to Cuba. That's my father's cousin.
So
3 months before, the same visa we had, but they made it and we didn't.
And then these are cousins that didn't make it.
This is one. They're brother and sister.
And they didn't make it.
Rose and Max Seligman.
And they were killed in the Shoah. Wow, so it's very difficult.
I have lots of difficulty. What is this?
Wow, and we're going to show a picture. This is on your 97th birthday, Canon Horror. And this is, wow, this is beautiful.
My granddaughter, who lives in Rehovot, she loves to make parties for me. And we have a room here I can rent. And she caters it.
Wow. It's good. It's lovely. It really is.
I have a wonderful family.
Can you show the picture of the town? Your town looked a very nice town. Where you grew up, it looked a beautiful...
I don't have a picture of the town, so...
So this is a picture of... this is like an ID card for you. Ursula, this is Seligman, and it's a picture of you, and it's got revenue stamps.
Yes. These friends of mine who came visiting me, they made up this book. That's the town.
And have you ever been back to the town? Would you ever go? Oh, it's too difficult.
I was invited. I could have had free hotel and everything for this Protestant. I sent my niece and nephew.
It's too difficult.
I didn't want to. I'm doing so well here. Why should I get sick?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you take the picture in the front, Ronnenberg? In the front. Did you get that one?
Yeah, it's very, very special. Wow. And then there's the Juden from the other pamphlet. There's the Juden from Ronnenberg.
Is that from the St. Louis?
This is the same picture from.
From I think it was Mr.
No, here's the sun. Look how nice.
Oh, so let's see.
That's from the St. Louis also. That's from St. Louis.
Wow. I'm going to just read this over here. So we're going to just go through it. Voyage of the. So this is from the Voyage of the St. Louis. It's a very iconic picture in the porthole. And you can see the despair. It's a very special picture here. You can see the despair on the faces, the unknown. And Ursula, are you in touch with anybody from the St. Louis? Are you in touch with anybody?
There are not many live. Several years ago, we had a group meeting in Washington, but I think there only maybe 2 or 3 other people living.
Wow.
And there may be some younger ones, I don't know. I'm not in touch with anybody.
And this is the route. I'm just going to show. This is the route from it left from Hamburg.
From Hamburg to Cuba.
To Cuba. And then it went
Cuba back to
Antwerp.
Antwerp.
But then there were some that went to England. England took, I think, a quarter.
Some England,
and Holland,
France,
and Holland,
Belgium, and Holland.
And this is the captain.
Oh, he was a wonderful fellow. What's his name? Does it say?
Captain Schroeder.
Right? Schroeder.
Yeah, Captain Schroeder. Do you remember the captain?
I remember the captain because he came in. He said, "I'm trying to stay here as long as we can until we know where we can let you off." He was a wonder. He was not an anti-Semite.
So it said here the majority of passengers in contravention of Cuban law 937 and may not be given permission to disembark. This was a cable to Captain Schroeder 2 days before scheduled landing in Havana. Wow. And they say that Captain Gustav Schroeder seems a very nice man. And you remember him, you can...
He came up on the boat and tell us we're trying our very, very best.
So he had worked for 37 years. He had experience on the sea. And before he took the helm of the St. Louis, he was the first person aboard the ship to learn that disembarking in Cuba might be impossible. At the urging of passenger committee was initially formed to maintain calm on board the ship and to serve as a liaison between the captain and other passengers. For his efforts during the voyage to find safe haven, Schroeder was honored posthumously by Yad Vashem in Israel as one of... Wow, he was given Chasidei Mot Olam, one of the righteous amongst the nations.
Wow. If it says so, this comes all from the Holocaust Museum in Washington, this book.
So it says, after the voyage, Captain Schroeder continued to sail the St. Louis until a war broke out. At a reunion of the former St. Louis passengers in 1989, Captain Schroeder's hat was presented to the former passengers by his relatives. Sure, it's very special.
I don't know, I have a paper from the Holocaust Museum where they thanked me for bringing... I should have gotten, I don't know which...
And here's just pictures from... This must bring back amazing memories.
Yeah. Do you see this picture from the captain here.
Yeah, that's amazing. And he was given Chasidei Motalam, which is...
He was a mensch. But you know, I've had when people ask me your story, I say I have so many experiences. I don't know which one is better or worse. But so, the main thing is I'm here.
So Ursula, it's an amazing thing. This is from an editorial. At least the New York Times wrote something. We can only hope some hearts will soften and some refugee will be found. The cruise of the St. Louis cries to the high heaven of man's inhumanity to man. And there's a cartoon with the Statue of Liberty saying, keep out. They kept you out. Wow.
It's an amazing thing. It's amazing that I'm doing as well as I'm doing.
It really is amazing.
Yes.
And out of all the passengers that went back to Europe,
yes,
there were quite a few that unfortunately, like within your family, that didn't make it. There were some that were sent straight to the camps.
But I don't know if it was, you know, I've talked, you know, when you're in that situation, my parents and we tried not to worry too much about somebody else, because we had to find ways for us to survive, to find a place where we're going. So we didn't mingle with many other people. Nowadays, I have friends here and there, but there was only one way to get away from there, and where we could. My mother wrote so many letters to people in America.
It's so sad what, that they could have left you right there in Havana. You're right in the port in Havana, and it's such a big country. Right. Or in America, they say the Virgin Island was empty. They could have, you know, transferred. You're talking less than 1,000 people.
I know.
Wow.
Those people went.
And here's a post. Wow. So here's a this is Havana. And here's a very famous postcard of the St. Louis. Wow, St. Louis, Hamburg. And let me ask, after you were freed from the camp in France and you were reunited with your father, where did you go immediately to Lisbon?
Well, we got out of camp because there was a hotel terminus. It's like a holding camp for people who had papers for America. We were there maybe for 6 weeks or so. But my father was in Camp de Mille, and he met us there just the day before we went on the train to Madrid and Lisbon. We were, my mother and I were in Marseille a few weeks before we got out of camp, but my father met us there when we were ready to take the train to Madrid and Lisbon, where we got the Colonial was a boat that took us to America. But when I came to America with my parents, my sister and my cousins were in New York to pick us up. When I got off the boat, that was called Colonial was a boat. I was down from the boat. I thought my feet were going up, going back on the boat. And my mother felt the same way, because we couldn't believe we actually came to put foot on the United States.
And how long did you stay in Madrid and in Madrid and Lisbon? Did you stay a few days?
In Lisbon, only 1 day.
Only 1 day.
1 day. We went from Marseille to Madrid, and we had to change trains by train, and then from Madrid to Lisbon. And we had a few hours, and my mother we went into a delicatessen store. I hadn't seen any food. It was like, I still remember it. There was all the food hanging from the ceiling. And one thing about my parents, my mother had a brown knitting thing, and inside she always had money. How she kept it all that time. When we left Germany, she put a bunch of money in there because we weren't allowed to take anything. Sure. But it was a knitting thing. So we did have money and bought some. What we bought, I don't remember, but I know we had something that tasted like something.
You know, in Lisbon, there were quite a few prominent Jews, like the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He also went via Lisbon to America.
I went back to Lisbon on a trip several years later.
And did you have the memories? Did it come back?
It was also Barcelona, but it was a beautiful trip, but going back to Spain and Portugal. But in many ways, I remember and I don't remember, because our mind was always not where we were. Where are we going to be? Yeah. I don't know if you can understand that. My mother and I, we always be, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And somehow we were very close. It got to America. It's really, I'm here like a little miracle.
It is a miracle, yeah.
Right. And here, being in Israel is great.
And Ursula, can I just ask, when you got to America, did you speak about your experiences? Were people interested in listening?
It took me a little while, several years later. I had Dachau at my synagogue. I gave a few talks. It wasn't easy.
And how was the response?
Everybody feels sorry for you. What can they do? But nobody could do anything. That's the problem. Even nowadays, this is what I'm saying. We as Jews, it's been just that part I don't understand. But we have to accept it, I guess. But I can't do anything. But there's so many organizations. Why can't they do more?
That's true.
Don't you think?
So something like this should never have happened. That there should have been enormous pressure on all the governments, on all the officials.
Right, but
here you had a boat with desperate passengers who had valid visas, and to allow it to sail back without demonstrating and going crazy, it should never have happened, and it should never happen again.
Hopefully not. But the world is not a perfect place. We have to make it perfect. In a small way, what can you say, you know? I was not allowed to enter the Lyceum or the college in Germany. She was not allowed, so I came to America. I did learn English in school, but you know, you don't, and I was able to start working for 50 cents an hour. The first week in the basement someplace to pack packages, just to. We stayed with my sister in her apartment. My parents stayed with my brother lived in a small apartment. You go through stages that you never expected to have to go through, and you can make it.
And your husband that you married was American?
No, he was from Germany, and he was from a place not too far from, but I didn't know him. I met him in Washington.
And did he go through the Shoah?
No, he didn't.
He came to America before?
He had relatives in America, and he and his sister came to America. His parents went to England, and later on they came to America. So my husband's family didn't have the luck I had.
Sure. Well, it's so lovely to see you smiling and so positive.
Well, I'm trying to. People ask me. I went to the Hadassah dental clinic. There were these students, and they asked me, "How do you make it?" I said, "Think positive. That's all."
It's a wonderful attitude to have.
You know, and I'm fortunate that I inherited from my parents.
They were always positive.
My mother, my father. My mother was a gourmet cook, and my cousins used to came to our house. My mother's first name was Elma. Elma Wunderbar.
Wunderbar, yeah, it's in Yiddish as well.
I remember that so well. I have wonderful good memories, you know, from way back. Then bad memories I throw out, and now
you concentrate on the positive, on the positive. I'm just going to give this friend.
I think that's a lesson for many people, right?
To concentrate more on the positive.
Isn't it better?
It's much better. It's true. So I just want to. You want to go in as well? Okay.
Come on.
So,
don't be so silly.
So I just want to thank you so much. It's been the greatest honor and a privilege.
Dr. Glassman, Honey's been telling me about you. I said, well, I really don't like to do it, but she says, he's a special person. I think you should.
Well, Honey, thank you so much. And her father, her whole family.
I had a wonderful youth. And my grandparents, unfortunately, my grandfather didn't make it. My grandmother died before. But they're all very warm people. I was raised in a wonderful environment.
Well, you can see it. It permeates your whole being. But you are such an inspiration.
But thank you.
Thank you so much. And
you're very welcome. I hope you continue to do well.
Thank you so much.
Do you have family?
Thank God. Yeah.
How many kids?
Two daughters, and we've just got our first grandchild.
Oh, mazel tov.
Thank you so much.
I already had 3 bar mitzvah and now 2 bas mitzvahs of great grandchildren.
Oh, Ken and her.
And I can enjoy it.
And may we stream in good health, and thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. All the best to you. Stay well with your family.
Thank you so much. Wow.
If I can help a little bit, I try to. I can't do much anymore, but you know.
So you are an inspiration, an inspiration to us all.
Thank you.